This is 12 mild autism stims. My son, Simon, I want you to meet him. He's 5 years old. He is a lot of fun. He's very social. He's very good at remembering all of his friends' names. He comes back from preschool and tells me all about his day. You might not even think or know that he's autistic. Now, I know his autism. I can see it, but other people might not. In this video, we're going to be talking about the way he stims as a mildly autistic person. And they're just my examples from my home to yours. Even if it just expands your understanding of the autistic world and how some people live in it, then it's worth sharing. The last few of these stims, these mild autistic stims, are ones that parents and caregivers and teachers miss. They don't notice them. And the last one, if it goes unchecked for years, your child might need surgery. True story. The first mild autistic stim is twirling hair. You can see in this video right here, Simon, my son, loves twirling his hair. He will do this to calm himself down. That's what a stim is. It's a repetitive movement that someone will do to help calm himself down. I love that he can calm himself down here because he will get high anxiety in social situations. There are situations where he's really overly sensitive to different stimuli, different sounds, different smells, and because of that sensory sensitivities, he needs a way that he can calm himself down because he's living in a world that he feels isn't made for him. I remember one time Simon came up to me, it was about a year ago, so he was 4 years old, and he's like, "Mom, I don't feel like I'm human." And he's 4, right? And he's very verbal. And I'm just thinking, this is the 4-year-old trying to describe, I don't feel the world's made for me. And I've heard that from many autistic people. So as a parent, and I'm not going to say I'm neurotypical, but I do not have autism. I want to increase my understanding for those on the spectrum so I can be better for both my boys. I have son Simon and a son Ezra who are on the spectrum. Ezra is nonverbal, he's 9 years old, and he's a lot of fun. This video though is really about Simon. It's about 12 signs of mild autism stims. This hair one is one that is like our go-to stim because it doesn't hurt anyone else. It doesn't hurt himself, and it's not even hurting any property. But as long as that's not hurting himself, and we are definitely watching for that in case it does, and we need to intervene and support him in a different way. But as long as it's okay, then it's okay. The second autism stim is one that you might recognize, and that's repetitively moving your hands, either twirling them or flapping them. Now, my son Simon used to flap his hands all the time when he got excited, whenever he had big feelings. Usually they were positive experiences that he was experiencing, but he would flap his hands, like in this video right here. He's watching the TV and he's really excited about what's on TV and he's flapping his hands. Now, I have a question for you. What do you think? Put yes in the comments if you think that it's totally fine to flap your hands in public. Put no in the comments if you think no. We should encourage children not to flap their hands because then they're obviously autistic and we need to hide autistic traits and it makes people uncomfortable. No or yes. I really want to know. And please, even if you've never commented before, you can put a yes or no. I would love to know what you're thinking and what your opinion and personal perspective is on this. You never know who you might bless just by commenting below. Number 3, example of autism stimming, is one of the first stims that we noticed in my son Simon. He was only 1 year old, and we had just moved from house to an RV full time. Yes, with 5 kids. We visited all the national parks in the United States that you can get to in an RV. We still post regularly of our unique normal, so please consider subscribing. But this stim is running back and forth or pacing. We saw him do this as a 1-year-old in the RV. He would pace back and forth, and I thought he was just getting out energy. I did not know he was autistic at the time. And then when we moved into a house and he was 2, and I was like, oh, he does this all the time. He runs from furniture to furniture, from wall to wall every night for half an hour to an hour. And that right there is a sign of autism. That right there is a mild autism stim. And I mean, also could be more severe too. But with my son, who's diagnosed with level 1 autism, Simon is, I saw that as a stim for him to just a way for him to calm himself down. And when we got him diagnosed, I was still kind of surprised. You know, I had my son Ezra, who is more severely autistic. He has ADHD, possible OCD, and level 3 autism and apraxia of speech as well. So when Simon came along, he was hitting his milestones and I didn't expect it. But that running back and forth, he still does it today. Every night, he'll need to run back and forth. One time, just about a month ago, I was getting him ready for bed. He's like, no, Mom, I can't go to bed yet because I haven't done my running. And I was like, okay, well, you've got 5 minutes, kid, okay, because you're not getting out of bedtime. But he just ran back and forth. You can see in this video, it's sped up. He doesn't actually run this fast. But I sped up this video so that you could see how many times he actually goes back and forth. He'll do this for easy 30 minutes if I let him, which I usually do just as long as it's not bedtime. Okay, so mild autism stim number 4 is one that I didn't even notice until after I got video. So just watch this video and see if you notice what stim he's doing. You can see Simon right here. He's twirling part of his clothes. That is the mild autism stim, especially if the duration is quite long and it's super repetitive. Like if someone's playing with their clothes several times a day, like every day, all the time, then that can be a sign of autism. That can be a way to calm themselves down. And especially if they're using that movement to help them deal with an uncomfortable situation, then that can be an autism stim. With Simon right here, this is definitely an autistic stim for him. Number 5 is repeating words and sounds softly over and over and over again. So if you see your child, maybe a child at school, one of your students, or your own child, and they're softly repeating the same words over and over and over again, that could be a way to self-soothe themselves, right? It could also be echolalia. If they're trying to communicate to you and they're repeating words, then that could be more of an echolalia thing. And echolalia is very common in autistic children. Not everyone has it, and sometimes it can show sometimes more obvious at certain chapters of your life, and then you can kind of not really have it for a little while. But mainly what it is, the definition is right here, echolalia. But I have seen echolalia with both of my autistic kids at different times in their life, if they use that repetitive word to calm themselves down. And then it becomes an autism stim. Number 6 is one you really want to look out for, because it's one that can be harmless, but can turn into something that is actually very harmful. And that's skin picking. This is an autism stim. It really is. It's a way that people deal with anxiety, and they will pick at their skin really wherever, sometimes to distract themselves from the anxiety they're feeling, sometimes just to calm themselves down, because that's kind of what they're used to doing. And there are many reasons of why someone could do skin picking. And this is one of the reasons. Is I've seen it with autistic adults even. The reason why I'm putting this in here, and I think it's a super important one, is that if a parent sees their child starting to do skin picking where it becomes harmful, there's a lot of different ways to help support that child. And shaming them is not one of the healthy ways. It's not supportive at all. So telling them, ordering them, not seeking any understanding of why they're doing it is not a healthy way either. There's lots of healthy ways, and please talk to a professional. Some healthy ways of supporting a child that I've experienced in my own life that have really helped my kids who are autistic is doing a replacement stim. When you try and replace a stim, you're gonna go through lots of different ones, and that's okay. Find something that helps. And then also explain to them like why it's hurting them, how it's hurting them, and why they should try and do a different stim. Give them a variety of ones to try. Maybe you can go to the store and they can pick out a bunch of different fidget toys, and you can start there. And I'll give you more ideas as this video goes on too, but of things that we've done. But give them as many choices as you can and try things, and please be patient. And please don't shame them for their stims, because that's not helpful. This next stim is one that I really relate to because I used to do it all the time when I was a little girl. And no, I am not diagnosed as autistic, but I'm not going to say that I'm neurotypical either. I'm not. I can't claim that. What it is tracing. So you can do this lots of different ways. You take a pencil and you can trace an outline, and no one will think the wiser. No one will be the wiser. They'll be like, oh yeah, you're just doing something that everyone does in kindergarten, and it's even your assignment. What if that child traces for hours and it's to help soothe themselves? What if that child traces with their finger? What if that child traces with their mind? Yes, that's what I did. So every summer, my family and I would go on a long road trip, and it was really fun when we got there, but it was really boring on the way, like crazy boring, like painfully boring for a child to be in the van with no iPad, no video, nothing to do. And I'm sure my parents supported us and gave us coloring books and things. And I remember them doing that, but I also remember long hours of looking out that window and just tracing. And I would trace, sometimes with my finger and sometimes just with my mind. And sometimes I would pretend that I had a paintbrush and I was painting the tops of the mountains and the city lights, the buildings and the trees and everything, and the person that went really fast with their bike, I would trace them. And sometimes I would be a snowboarder, and I would take that snowboarder and I would just trace over every single thing that I saw for hours to help me deal with an uncomfortable situation. That's stimming. That's what that is. And so your child could be tracing and you wouldn't even know it. Having open conversations with your children are a good thing. Now, I'm not saying that tracing thing is a bad thing. I was dealing with a hard situation and I did the best that I could. And this is a stim that is very common with people who have level 1 autism. So it's one to look out for, and you can help support them. Maybe they need coloring, tracing things. If they really like that, if they love that, then maybe they need a notepad in their back pocket with a little stylus so that they can trace, because that's a great stim. In my opinion, as a mother with 2 autistic kids, I would encourage that type of stim. Number 8 is blinking rapidly or repetitively, or both, or rhythmically. Wow, we've got 3 R's. Just remember the 3 R's, and that's number 8. So if you see a child who's blinking a lot, please make sure there's nothing in their eye. After that, you might talk to them and figure out why. In a supportive and non-judgmental way, figure out why they are blinking. Is it to help calm themselves because they are uncomfortable? Because they feel like the world around them is, maybe they're overstimulated, it's just too difficult for them to deal with, and this is how they can deal with it. It's always good to be aware of that, because if you're the teacher or if you're the parent, maybe there's something you can do to help support them in their environment or the situation that they're in to bring down that anxiety. Because, okay, truth bomb right here. When people have anxiety, it's harder for them to learn. If you want to teach a child something, you got to bring that anxiety down as much as you can. Keep that in mind. You can help support these kids. Children have a very short time of being children. If you're a caregiver, parent, or teacher, you have not only a wonderful opportunity, but a solemn responsibility to honor their childhood, to help them have a good childhood, because they only have one, and then it's gone. And every child deserves to be respected and seen and heard in their childhood as they're learning and growing, and as they are the most vulnerable they've ever been, like ever will be. They are vulnerable. And here you are as an adult with knowledge and capabilities. Don't punish and shame. Support and love unconditionally, and connect and understand, because that brings growth for both people. Okay, that was a tangent, but I'm not going to apologize for it. Number 9 is rubbing fingers together or with fabric. So this is another way you can support your child. If they're rubbing their fingers together and maybe it's hard on the fingers, you can go out and have them go to a fabric store and pick out their favorite fabrics. A lot of fabric stores will give you a swatch for free, but even if you just get like an eighth of a yard. It's usually not that expensive if you go to like a cheap store, or bring a 50% off coupon. But sorry, I sew, so I know a lot about fabric. But there's some really soft fabrics. There's some little minky ones. There's some silky ones. If your child really likes the taffeta there's a bunch of ones. And those can be a very positive stim that they can lean on for a chapter of their life when they're learning and they need something to help calm themselves down so they can learn. So that's an idea too. But that is definitely, it's a sign of autism, and it's a mild autism stim to go like this with fabric and just feel like, okay, that helps me feel better. It could be the friction, it could be the fabric, that it's really soft and silky. Could be lots of reasons. But I've seen that with my kids, both my kids. So Ezra has level 3 autism. He's 9 years old. He's nonverbal, but he definitely can communicate, just not verbally. And he's super smart. He really understands what's going on around him, even though a lot of people from the outside don't recognize that he does. You can see a video right here about his severe autism. But this video is mainly about stimming and about mild autism stims. But he will take blankets and he'll put his fingers in the holes of the blankets. And that's very similar too, is he wants that feeling, like that hard pressure. And that can be an autism stim for severe and for mild as well. Number 10 is one that is kind of a stereotypical autistic thing, and yet some people do it that aren't autistic. So I want to kind of explain it. And that's lining up cars or lining up toys or organizing toys. This happens all the time with kids, whether they're autistic or not. So what's the difference? Well, I'm going to tell you one really big difference. It's not limited to this answer, okay? This is just one of many answers, I'm sure. But from my home to yours, this is how I see it with my 2 autistic boys. When I see a neurotypical kid or not autistic child, and they're lining up their toys and they're organizing them, they're also playing with them too. They're doing both. They're communicating with you with what they're doing. They're sharing the moment. They're interacting. They're using their imagination in their play. So that's not an autistic stim. But lining up their cars again and again, and that is the play, then that can be an autistic stim, especially mild autistic stim. I saw it with my son Simon a lot when he first would get his cars and toys. You can see here he's got things lined up and he's not touching them because they're done. He's done playing with them because the lining up and the organization of the types of cars have to be next to each other that are the same. That is the play. So that is more of a sign of autism. That is more of your mild autistic stim, is that I need things this way and it helps me feel better. And then I'll do it again. Or maybe I'll bring in some more, or I'll reorganize them. But that is the play, is the lining up and is the organization. I actually talk about this in the book that I just wrote. My husband and I wrote a book called A Unique Normal, 12 Mistakes We Made While Raising Autistic Kids. And to check out that book, click the link in the description below. We wrote it for parents of autistic kids to build stronger relationships with them and to find joy in the journey. Number 11 is humming or singing in a very repetitive or rhythmic way, that the duration is very long, and then also how many times you do it a day is quite extensive. It's quite a long time.
This old man, he played too on my organ. A thing on the yellow sun, get along, this old man is rolling home.
Lots of children sing, and that doesn't mean that they have autism. But when the singing is like one little tiny spot of the song and it's over and over and over and over again, and it's for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and they do this every day, then that turns into a stim. And this stim helps regulate themselves because they're living in a world that is difficult to deal with. And so they're dealing with it through a stim. And that is definitely one that I've seen with both my autistic kids. And this last one, number 12. Before I tell you what it is, I know of people in my own personal life who didn't know, it wasn't their fault, they didn't know that this stim could actually hurt their child long term without any intervention. And they needed casting and they needed surgeries, and that is toe walking. So you might think toe walking, that's not a big deal. You're right. Usually it's not a big deal unless your child is up on their toes, even when they're standing, and we're talking 90 to 100% of the time. That was my son Simon. We do a video on it here about his toe walking and how we got him braces to help support him. But this is an autism stim a lot of the time. And it doesn't mean that your child's autistic just because they toe walk. But there's quite a big percentage of autistic children who do toe walk. And then a small percentage of those people can actually hurt the growth of their foot if they're always on their toes. And I know people personally who have hurt themselves because they're always on their toes. And so please, if you see a child just when they're always on their toes, like flat, remind them to put their heel down so that they don't lose that ability to put their heel down. So that's really important. And just love your child unconditionally, and that's what they will remember. So right here, we have 12 autism stims, 12 examples of autism stimming. And here we have a playlist of Is My Child Autistic? A bunch of videos, some videos from our home to yours of examples of our kids, and then also some videos of us interviewing doctors with professional opinions that can really help you. Now, please remember, if you have an autistic child, you're in good company.